Good morning, gang. Happy Saturday morning. Well, I guess the phrase for this week would be take a hint. Kind of interesting what's happened all over the country this week and watching the literal death of blue states. And I'm going to give you multiple examples here. Okay. We'll start with a couple of easy ones. Elon Musk moved the SpaceX company from Delaware to Texas. Why? Well, the state of Delaware didn't think his compensation package was appropriate, so he moved the company. Jeff Bezos moved from Washington to Miami. Just a question. How long do you think until Amazon moves the rest of the company to Florida too? Okay. He's saying it's not because of taxes. Bullshit. Okay. Simple as this. He's selling billions of dollars worth of stock. I can pay the state of Washington all their income tax and owe the included capital gains tax that Washington claims, or I can move to Florida and not have to worry about any of that. I can keep millions, tens of millions, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in my pocket rather than in the government's pocket. Okay. You look at what happened yesterday and the penalty, if you will, that was assessed on Donald Trump in New York. Okay. $355 million, which inevitably is going to be overturned in an appeals court because the evidence is crap and the what's the word I want to use? The actions, I can't think of it off the top of my head, by the judge, by the AG, Letitia James, are so criminal and corrupt that he's got more reasons in the world to have a appeal and have it overturned. Okay. But I want to give you this. Okay. Not only in that penalty was he fined $355 million, he and Eric and Don Jr. and some of the former executives in the Trump organization were forbidden from doing business in New York for 3 years. Now, not that it matters to Donald Trump, because in about 9 months he's going to be elected president and he won't be running a business anyway. He'll be running a country. But here's the problem. Okay. The Trump organization has, at best estimates, 22,450 employees. Okay. Now, of course, not all of them are in New York. He's got hotels and golf courses and businesses all around the world. But there are a bunch of employees in New York that, what are the chances of them keeping their job? About that much. If they want to move to Florida, which you can guarantee is where Trump is going to move the Trump organization headquarters to, okay, taxes, okay, and maybe not a hostile government, New York's going to lose all that. They're going to have more people on unemployment, not that however many, let's just say a third, let's say 7,000 of them work in New York, okay. I mean, in the big picture, that's not a lot compared to the population of New York City. But still, it's 7,000 more people on the streets who don't have the money to go to the grocery store, have the money to go pay rent, go to a restaurant, go to a show, do whatever, which affects other people's jobs. Okay, so you get that snowball effect. So you watch how New York is committing suicide. Funny how this is working, because you don't hear about any red states committing suicide like this. But then to give the award for most idiotic of the week, and the biggest WTF moment, I guess, if you will, goes to California. Go figure. Okay. Y'all know there is a special election coming up to replace Dianne Feinstein in the Senate, right? Remember, she died last year, 172 years old. Weekend at Bernie's, still got elected. Go figure. But, finally, good riddance to bad rubbish. So we've got to replace her. So you've got 4 candidates running. Steve Garvey, the former Dodgers, Padres first baseman, he's the Republican. He's probably not going too far. To Republican in California. Good luck. Karen Bass is running. Yeah, maybe. Doubtful. Okay. Adam Schiff, we all know who he is. Okay. Dick with ears, pencil neck, however you want to call him. The guy who's never seen the truth in his life. Russia, this guy. Okay. Yeah, he's running. And then you have Barbara Lee, who's just a complete whack job. Okay. And so, but the 2 biggest contenders are Adam Schiff and Barbara Lee. Now, Schiff's a moron. We'll give you this, okay? That's a compliment for him. They had a debate this week, and just to give you an idea, Adam Schiff was bitching in the debate that, you can't afford a house on minimum wage in California. That's why we need to raise the minimum wage. Okay. Hey, Adam, just to give you an idea, you were never able to afford a house on minimum wage. You were never supposed to be able to afford a house on minimum wage. Minimum wage is what entry-level high school kids got jobs for. Okay? That was it. If you were any good at your job, you got a raise. Okay? It was paid for performance. You go back to the 1980s when I was a kid. My first job, other than delivering newspapers, was working in a Taco Bell. Okay? And I was paid minimum wage. I didn't know shit. Okay? That's why I got paid minimum wage. Okay? It was $3.35 an hour. Now, granted, houses didn't cost what they cost now, but let's go back and say a house in 1980 cost you $75,000. Okay? Small house, just saying. Making $3.35 an hour, take home of $500 a month, not going to buy you a house. Was never meant to. Okay, minimum wage was for high school kids, college kids to make a little money on the side, learn about work. Okay, and then maybe you had some retirees that wanted a little bit of extra income, and so they got it. It was never meant for a career. Okay, so no, Adam, you're right. You can't afford a house on minimum wage. You were never supposed to. Okay. But Barbara Lee, going back to the whole topic of the video here, Barbara Lee has a solution. Barbara Lee's solution for California is to raise the minimum wage to $50 an hour. Yes, you heard me correct. 50. So, now, for being your cashier at the grocery store, saying, would you like fries with that, you should now make $100,000 a year, according to Barbara Lee. Okay? It's a living wage. It's not supposed to be a living wage. Okay? It's supposed to be, here, learn a little bit of responsibility, learn what it's like to work, et cetera, et cetera. The days of, gee, come home and do your homework and wait for mom to cook dinner, those days are over. You want to go out and party on the weekend, you get to go earn the money during the week. Like how you learn to live in the real world. Okay. But there's an ulterior motive to her $50 an hour. Okay. This is something people don't think about. I laugh every time people say, well, I can't, being a recruiter, right? They couldn't move from California to Texas because they were going to get paid less. Okay. Quality of life is the first part. Here's what'll happen, okay? Right now in California, as of 2022, because we don't have the 2023 annual numbers yet, California's state debt was $145 billion a year. The tax revenue they took in 2022 was $223 billion. Okay, it's about 25% less than they expected. Why? Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's because, companies are leaving California, okay, because they can't afford to do business there. So basically, with all the spending California had, that led to a $68 billion budget deficit in 2023. Okay, they didn't have enough money. Go figure. Okay. Couldn't cut spending. We've got to figure out some way to do this. Can't raise taxes. California already has the highest tax rate in the country. Okay, federal tax we all pay. California's state taxes, local taxes, municipal taxes, gas taxes, etc. You add all that together, Californians pay more tax than anybody else in the United States, including Hawaii. Okay. So we need to raise the wages. That doesn't make sense. Sure it does. Okay. Right now, California's minimum wage is $16 an hour. Barbara Lee wants to triple it to $50 an hour. 19% of California's workforce, or about 3.2 million people in California, work for minimum wage. Okay. Now, if you take those numbers, currently a full-time worker in California on a minimum wage would make $32,000 a year. Okay, there's 2,040 hours in a work year, minus 2 weeks vacation. 2,000 hours is what you got left. Okay. Putting them in the 4% tax bracket, which means on $32,000 a year, you would pay $128 in taxes. Now, that's what goes into the coffers, how your return works, maybe because of all the giveaways in California, maybe you get a refund. Okay, but $128 goes into the state coffers. Under Barbara Lee's plan, the same minimum wage worker, the same person still scanning your groceries or still dropping potatoes into the basket of hot oil, okay, would make $100,000, moving them into the 9.3% tax bracket. So now they would pay $930 a year. And you go, okay, big deal. They're making $68,000 more and they're only paying $800 more in taxes. They're okay. Sure. Like communism. It works great on paper. Okay. So that's $802 a year. Okay, more in taxes. At 3.2 million people, that's a little more than $2.5 billion more that the state would get in tax revenue. Of course, that doesn't mean that the people are going to keep their jobs because, of course, the companies can't afford it. You have to provide the value to the company. So if they need to triple the tax or triple the pay, if the company needs to triple the pay, that means they need to triple their income just to cover that. Let's not talk about because their insurance is going to go up because the insurance company got to pay their people more, or their electric bill is going to go up because the electric company's got to pay more. Because you're figuring this: anybody that makes less than $100,000 now goes, I need $100,000 too. Okay, just because you're at minimum wage. Let's say you're, a current $75,000 a year job. Okay, making double minimum wage in California at least. And you go, well, this guy's making 100. I should make more than him too. So how many more people do you get up? That's where this gets into it. Okay. So what do you have happen? You'll have very soon, if this went through, all these businesses leaving California. Would that surprise anybody? Which then means no tax revenue. Well, now what do we got to do? Well, we're going to have to borrow money from the federal government because California already gets more federal handouts than any other state. Okay, just giving you this. See, they don't have a revenue problem. They don't have or what they do have is a spending problem and a cost of living problem. The taxes are so high that they can't bring them, that they should bring them down to bring the cost of living down. But they can't do that because they just spend money like drunken sailors. Now you can really tell why California is losing people faster than any other state. 500,000 people left California, net 500,000 people left California last year. Okay? Remember, they lost 2 congressional seats because so many people left. But this is Barbara Lee's plan. She wants to be in Congress. She wants to be in the Senate. I mean, after all, come on, let's take a look at the geniuses that California's already sent to Washington. Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Eric Swalwell, Adam Schiff, Dianne Feinstein. Thank God she finally off the ballot, hopefully. But yeah, okay. Lee would just be another rocket scientist going to Washington to try to make the rest of the country look like California. Remember, California is that country or state we should all emulate, right? Because they run it so well. Her plan kind of reminds me of that Weimar Republic wheelbarrow story, doesn't it? Guy's got a wheelbarrow full of money, sits it out in front of the store, and says, "Aren't you worried about somebody stealing the money?" "No, I'm really worried about somebody stealing the wheelbarrow." Okay, yeah. This is the thing. If companies have to triple it, imagine going in and paying $25 for a Big Mac, right? Okay, that's what it would take. Okay, I don't know. A gallon of milk could now cost you $15. Yeah. Hey, the grocery store's got to pay all those people to stock the shelves. That's what it'll cost for food. So what do you think's going to happen? That's what's going on there. Okay. Now, don't forget, with California being the state we should all emulate, Gavin Newsom is getting groomed to be president. So what's going to happen? Well, let's kind of take a look back at New York again a little bit as companies are leaving. Perfect example in New York. How many companies in New York, going back here, are looking at Trump's judgment yesterday and going, we might not want to be here because if they get pissy at us, we're going to have to pay buku bucks too. Okay. Now, let's think about New York City. What do you have in New York City? Well, a lot of liberals. It's about 85% liberal. But there are some conservative businesses there. And I'll give you this. If you look back to 2020 and 2022, companies that donated more money, I mean, this is collective between the company, between the employees, et cetera, because you have to report all that information for donations. Companies that reported more money donated to Republican candidates than Democrat candidates from New York City. Goldman Sachs, financial services. Hospira, biotech pharmaceuticals. MetLife, insurance. Credit Suisse, financial services. New York Life Insurance, again, insurance. Yeah, let's see. Of the top 5 companies that donated money to political candidates, more money to Republican candidates, 4 of them are in financial services. What happens if, I don't know, Wall Street decides to move to Florida? or Tennessee or Texas or Nevada. Well, it's gambling anyway. Can all these states handle all these job losses, all these company losses, all these tax revenue losses? No, they can't. California's seeing them. Washington State's going to see them. Trying to get me started on Illinois. Illinois is losing people and companies like crazy. Okay. New York's losing them. Hey, Massachusetts, how soon till you start seeing this? Here's the problem. They've got all these things going on. Can't see past here. But like I've said for years and years and years and years, communism works great on paper. There's what's going on to prove it. None of it works in the real world. And each and every one of us, somehow, some way, directly or indirectly, is going to be affected by this. You buy stuff from Amazon, you eat produce, okay? You know, stay in a hotel, have money in the markets. It's all going to affect all of us. We're going to see a mass outflow bigger than we already do, outflow of people from the blue states, all into the red states. And while the problem comes up is, are they going to bring their idiotic ideas to the red states? That's one problem. The second thing is, these states can't handle it. Ask Idaho. Ask native Idahoans about how their state has been Californicated, driving property values and property costs up to a point where the native Idahoans can't afford to live there anymore. Liberalism is a disease. It needs to be eradicated forever. Pinball out.